5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think it's live right now. So let's see if I can't find this. So here's one of these things as like kind of a shit hack I can do for that one. And then let's minimize this. And let's go here and pick nope, it's see if this works. Oh, I'm already signed in. Give me half a second to wiggle some shit. Try to get this page ready so that other people can see it. Don't want to show off anything that's like too embarrassing, you know.
Gotta hide some windows.
You know, something like that.
Don't show client work on demos.
Yeah, exactly. You know, just making sure my desktop's clean and everything. I'm okay embarrassing myself. Just I want to embarrass myself only the right amount. So yeah, background on that is, it was someone on HN had posted, oh, I made this web page. I made a new tab page for myself, and it does, cool stuff for me. And they're so excited about it, as a productivity hack.
Right.
And I think it's pretty great. This is one I made for my OpenTHC project. So I have this fun trick I use when I start a browser window. It launches this thing. And this is a little Python wrapper around a whole shed load of directories. Browser profiles. Browser profiles has, oh, whoops. Where did I put them all? I don't even remember where they are. But there's a bunch of browser profiles. Most of them are in Chrome. I've got it smart enough that if there's an icon in the directory, it'll use that to display it and launch it with whatever browser that profile's for. And you can see I've got some Firefox ones down here as well. I still have the weird directory name that Firefox prefixes stuff with because I barfed out this Python in a very short amount of time. So I click a hyperlink, and instead of it going to just the default browser on the system, it goes to this Python script.
Right.
Which, like, if I click a hyperlink, it'll show me the link that I'm about to follow down here, and then lets you pick whichever profile you want to activate, and then regular browser or do an incognito window or, just bail out. So that thing's kind of like fun for me. So I have this OpenTHC profile, and under that one, I have this new tab page set. Let's see if we can't find the code for new tab page too. Project something. No, it's under Chrome extensions. Nope, those are Chrome only extensions. Browser extensions, OpenTHC, NTP. So new tab page is actually stupid easy to make. And I got the same code basically for Chrome and Firefox. You make some silly manifest file with some details in it and some icons and what you want it to be able to do. I added a whole bunch of options here because I thought, oh, maybe this script will end up doing something really fancy for me, in the future. But mostly it's just this new tab HTML file, which, is pretty dang lightweight, 200 lines of code or something. And I've just put a whole bunch of the links that I care about in here with some pretty minimal styling. Looks like I've got support for Font Awesome in there, but I'm not using it. And I've got a very thin style sheet. You know, I wanted it to look sort of cool. And then there was a little bit of JavaScript I had to do because I had this note-taking box in there and I wanted to just store that. So I store that in local storage, but you have to go through background. So you have to make this other background. You have to just have a placeholder, even though this thing will sort of do that, you know, and you have to end up having stuff in that script that gets exposed to the other ones. Sort of tedious, but, you know, you fill it out in your manifest JSON, boom, you're ready to rock and roll. And then another placeholder, HTML for background. And then just gives you this little silly page. And I got all my stuff here at the top that I'm in these apps all the time. My email, my calendar, my drive, whatever. So I just like make a new tab and hit something. Bang, I can go. I can get in my GitLab, I can get in my GitHub, our team chat, all that good stuff. These are our internal apps down here. This is a little thing. I spend a lot of time. Oh, let's look at ticket 1, 2, 3, 4 for various projects. So I have all the projects in a little drop down and I can just hit this and go like 1, 2, 3, 4, go. And it just quick links into the GitLab project for that ticket so that it's trivial to find stuff. I'm not going to pull up any of our tickets in here. And then we have our own internal ops panel, which we need to do searching on. Type in a company's name, a client name, something. Oh, somebody's email. Whose email is this? You know, and you fill it out like test@openthc.com, and then you would search. And you know, I don't want to show too much, but it drops you into this thing and shows you some stuff from our internal control panel. This jumps me into the different apps that we have. Somebody's like, oh, I'm looking at blah, blah, blah. We had wanted to chat about custom logging, so there's some of that stuff. And then I just have a whole bunch of hyperlinks into interesting stuff that I want to remember. It could be in my browser bookmarks and stuff like that, but I don't want bookmark bar because it gets in my way. I don't need to see those all the time. I only need to see them when I'm motivated to try something, like a new tab.
The new recent bookmark interface that made a couple of years ago, made bookmarks like that aren't in the bookmark bar almost inaccessible.
Yeah, I mean, it's buried down here. You bookmark the tag. There is a bookmarks bar at the top, you know, and it has some silly stuff for me that never really handled me. It, you know, did me a favor.
Yeah.
Even before I was like, oh, new tab page on Chrome and putting an extension, or new tab page in Firefox and putting an extension, you know, I would have, you know, my own homepage on the internet somewhere, and my new tab would be not configured to be a new blank page. But even IE6 was like, do you want your new tab to be the default? Do you want it to be a specific web page that you go to? Or do you want it to be some file : whack, 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 you know, my directory, new tab.html, which was way less functional than what you can do now with the extension. And you can share it.
The extension gives you more control or than you would get out of just, say, putting it on a web page and putting your new tab to that web page?
It gives you some controls you can put in the browser that are like more clever, but you could actually accomplish every single one of those with a remote web page too.
Right.
Because this is just a text box that you type into.
Because you can still, the web page can still do local storage,
right? Yeah. Local storage in the context of new tab page, or local storage in the context of openthc.com or edocio.com. I'd still be able to read and write into that thing, and it might actually even be a little bit simpler because you are not doing a manifest. You're not trying to package it. You don't put your browser into developer mode to load their untrusted extension from outside of the App Store, et cetera, et cetera. But if you want to integrate, and I had some motivations to do that, integrate with other tabs or add other features that are more tightly integrated with the browser. Like I had some idea that I would be able to read the bookmarks, because the add a star feature when you're looking at a web page is pretty cool. And what would be really cool is I could hit a star on a web page. It would add it to my bookmarks. And then my extension, which has access to that, could know things like how frequently you visit a page or things like this.
I didn't even know that button was there. They changed the UI. I don't go explore. I just need the things I need.
I mean, really though,
I am constantly accidentally bookmarking though, because my bookmarks are filled with noise.
Oh yeah,
they moved the bookmark shortcut right at some point to, I don't know what it is actually. Is it D maybe?
Control D. Like yeah. I have accidentally Control D'd the shit out of stuff
all the time.
Oops, and so that's a thing that happened to me also. So then I have all these other silly things like Google has this little play canvas thing, and I use this a lot for doing stupid drawings, but I can never remember the URL canvas.apps.chrome. And if you type in something like Canvas app into the internet, brother, you are not finding the thing that you're not finding this. So I got it one time. I said, oh, I got to put it here. I do some other streaming for OpenTHC with Streamlab. And they were having a different name. And then they moved and somebody bought something and sold something. And, it kept being difficult to find. A bunch of my social links that I need to jump into. A bunch of the Slacks that I can't remember. And, I don't leave my Slack open. Got my internal accounting systems down there.
You don't use the desktop Slack client with all the keep them all in there?
I don't use the I'm not really an apps guy.
Sure.
I mean, when I was much younger, I saw, oh shit, web is delivering all of this cool stuff. In 1996, in 1997, and there was some stuff. It was like, oh yeah, you have to install that, right? I'm still in that headspace when it comes to like a game. But for any of my productivity apps, it's a web app, and it does not actually need to be more than that. And there was another case I had for, oh, you have to have something installed, which was, oh, I need hardware integration. But modern Chrome does some interesting stuff where you throw that motherfucker into kiosk mode, and you can enable things like web USB. So now if you have a device, such as a handheld 2D imager, right? And you want to have that integrated with your point of sale, well, web USB and its serial thing, and you just like give the identifier, and I mean, I'm oversimplifying it, for brevity's sake.
Sure.
But you throw that thing in there, and now my point of sale, one of the things that would happen if you try to use this device as just a natural keyboard, and it can be an HID or it can be just a keyboard or something.
That's how we ran our point of sales. They were just keyboards. Yeah,
and if you scan a PDF 417 on the back of someone's driving license, the USA ID, USA's, ID cards in all the states, and you beat that thing, it's got control characters in it. Okay, no big deal. Except that you're in your point of sale, you're in your web-based point of sale, and you beat this thing, and like the first thing it does is say like PDF 417 or whatever it has as its intro bytes, and then it does Control D. Oh, it's adding fucking bookmark.
Right. Yep.
and then putting you on another page because it's like Control D, Control T. So it's like
always scan were UPCs and ISBNs, so it was not never a concern, but.
Yeah, so that thing was like, that was a mess. And you can actually trap that you can trap it all, document, key listener that just recognizes very fast keystrokes in some of these signal characters and says, oh, it looks like from the first 4 bytes that you typed, you're doing a scan. Let's trap all of the rest of the stuff until there's a, delay of 500 milliseconds before the next keystroke, right? You put a little ugly, stupid wrapper that's like trying to check the character input. And then if the characters are all okay, you have to like let those bubble through to the rest of the app and not trap them. So sometimes like if people type really fast, it was like, oh, you're a scanner. they were able to type 3 or 4 characters super fast, and had to get that thing was like a little finicky to dial in for a couple of these cases. Fragile JavaScript on web pages on machines where, and some of those scanners are super fast, and some of those scanners are not super fast. So you've got they're not much faster than smashing the keyboard or a cat walking on the keyboard, right?
Yep. I mean, I'd be okay if you captured my cat walking on the keyboard and said, "Hey, that's not actually input. Please don't put that into a password field and change my password, please."
Right. But now with Web USB, and there's other stuff now. And then the other thing was, back in the day, it was, you had to have an app on the iOS, Android universe. And I was telling people, no, you can do this with a web app. But it was like ugly to try to capture from the camera on the device into your web page.
Right.
Circa 2012, now it's 10, 12 years later, and you got file upload type, and you just put a little HTML attribute says like, I'm going to accept image wax star. And then the devices all know, hey, you're accepting image wax star, and it prompts you, do you want to take a picture right now and upload it, or do you want to pick from your photo gallery? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. You can even tell the web page, turn on the camera, start capturing all of the stuff from the camera in video, pass the frames through to some other mechanism. So like the zebra crossing barcode scanning library, you can embed that on a web page with this very, largish blob of JavaScript, attach the camera to that, and it's scanning frames, and it's pulling out barcodes, and it's pulling out QR codes, and it's pulling out, PDF 417 even. Awesome stuff. I don't need the app these days. And like I say, for this new tab page, I had high hopes where I was going to have tighter integration with the browser, which is just not possible through any other web accessible APIs or anything. Again, if we go back and look in that manifest, look at my dreams in the manifest. I was going to do stuff with notifications, web nav, manipulate my open tabs, stuff like this. I thought, I have all this stuff. So you just throw it all in the permissions. I'll take them all right now. I'll adjust it later. There's no threat model on me running code I wrote myself for myself on my system, right? The threat model is I'm an idiot, a known threat model. No big deal. Then the other thing I use, so this is my new tab page for productivity, right? And I'm just like, I got to do something. New tab, one click. I'm doing the thing that I need to do. Get into my logs already real easy. One or two of those, can't tell from here, but like a couple of these, these are all authenticated systems that I need to do stuff mostly in an authenticated way. But like, I don't know, this one for directory, you can also use it as gen pop. So a lot of these have me link in through the our sign-on portal before it lands me in there, because it knows who I'm supposed to be and blah blah blah. And if I'm not signed in, but I know I'm following this link, it's because I want to get into directory with my more administrative level permissions, and so it makes sure I'm bouncing into those systems, that way. Same story with some of these ones for the logging. Those are all on servers that are generally web accessible, but it's behind like HTTP digest password things or some firewall rule. And then, so these all have to bounce into that system from intermediate system that says, I trust who you are. Let me open up that other thing for you real quick. Basically a crappy, PHP server that then uses remote SSH over to another machine to like manipulate the firewall via some Perl script. Yes. And then the other thing I do is I have this tool I wrote for myself called Crass. Adocio does a lot of stuff with Latin themes. Crass is like a root for procrastinate. Shit I will do later. And this one I got, oh, it gives me this little thing up here, install Adocio Crass. I have no idea what that will do, and I'm a little reluctant to press it on my desktop. And we'll see if I can't show what it looks like on my phone. It's just an icon on my desktop, right? There's an icon there. It's my Adocio icon, and you tap it. But the reason that it's very, very cool is I go into some thingamajig on the web, like I'm looking at a Hacker News page, and I hope my phone is visible in the screen there without too much glare, but it becomes a share target on my phone. So an image that I've captured on my phone is my share target, or I'm looking at a web page, share. Anything that's sharing, I can actually share from like any app into
this,
Crass, which is my primary way where I put shit into Crass with my little hashtags that I put on a message. You know, here's a privacy preserving thing. It's just save the page from HN, and then I add this little thing on here, and then I would hit update, or when I'm done with it, I delete. Stuff goes into Crass when I'm wandering around on the internet, on my mobile device. Somebody sends me something, blah, blah, blah. I dump it into this thing. Then I'm on my desktop. Oh, let me look at my to-do list, right? I think everybody builds their own to-do app, right? It's the common example for stuff and things, and lots of people have their own desires on workflows. Why use somebody else's tool that keeps changing their fucking user interface all the time on me and like frustrating me? Or that I signed in to like do something and then it prompts me with, oh, hey, by the way, there's a new feature we want to advertise to you. So click dismiss on this box 3 times before you can do the thing you actually want to do.
If you installed that PWA, I wonder if you'd get like a right-click share, and so you could do the same thing from browser.
I don't know. I'll press the button. Install app.
It's only slightly painful to uninstall the PWA, right?
Well, so here's what it's done. It's just opened up this little page for me, and it's Chrome. This is still Chrome, probably under the same profile.
Yeah. It'll be under the same profile.
Oh yeah, here's my little icon. I can't do very much from here. And there's a thing that you do. Let's see if we can't get the code for this thing visible. Where is it? Argon. Now I got no problem sharing my crappy code. I can't share my good code because I don't have any. Hey-o. Let's see. Oh, this was just some interesting page I was doing something for, but you had to make a little worker JS that gives you these install things and does some stuff like this where all just pieces you had to put in there. And there's this manifest that describes how it goes. And this is where you define your share target. Give me some multi-part form data. Think you had to say this. Yeah, because you're trying to tell it what kind of stuff to post. And these are attributes that it tells you about that you can pass along, and what name do you want to give it. So I just copied the known params that they gave me and said I will take an input parameter with the exact same name. So this is basically just posting to a web page. That's all it's doing. And you give it a start URL and a scope, which doesn't have to exactly match. Like this could be something like crash start.html or .php or Cold Fusion, baby. So shit like that.
I did some quick searching, and the share target isn't supported in the web, the Chrome PWAs, but it's
the Android. That's the only thing I use it for.
But it does have there is a similar functionality that you could enable as an alternative, and then you could use it on the desktop and you get that functionality in the desktop for right click. You capture right clicks and add a menu item, and then
drop me a link in the meeting chat. That's pretty
ChatGPT, man. It's making it up.
Oh, so you don't even know if it's lying to you?
I haven't followed it up. Come on.
All right, fair enough.
Where's the chat tab here? Why does the chat tabs so hard to find in Meet? Why is it so hard?
It's the third icon over now. That second icon over is They changed its UI. They changed its icon. At least they've got the tooltip hovering over the button when you're like looking at it to see what it's going to do. Because dear every app developer who has a button that does not provide me a tooltip, fuck you. That's a thing that really frustrates me.
Oh, okay, it looks like it's only half implemented, so you couldn't get the full equivalent of it.
Well, I'll poke it. And so this thing is very stupid. It uses a PHP session and has my special secret. And if you know the right secret, it does the right thing and just makes a SQLite database to hold everything. And this is like that thing that's the target. Somebody comes in here with a share target.
Right.
And it's really just, I've been shipped a bunch of data and I shove it into the fucking database. And then I give somebody that view script, which just puts some bullshit at the top of the to-do and then has some link. And I dump some debug spew at the bottom, but really it's just throwing it into this note and letting you hit save. And there's very little that you have to do on this page, to save it. I just land on this page. And if I do nothing, my notes are already saved, because they get saved on import. And then it shows me a page where I can then add stuff to it. And then it does it. And then looking at this, I think we were talking last time or maybe the time before about some audio recording and how to publish. WebKit speech recognition exists and allows you to record stuff.
Right.
And so I wonder if I go here and I hit add. Oh, I have a record button. And it says, do you want to use the microphone? I'll say allow this time. And I don't know if this part's actually working or if it's going to.
I think you still got to hit record.
It doesn't look like it's doing anything at the moment.
You have to hit it again? Or no? There it is.
No, it turned green. That's how I knew it was working.
Okay.
I guess I have to hit green again, and now it's going to record a bunch, and then it automatically
it puts something in the text field.
I have to hit it. Yeah, okay. It does have some little silence detection. Maybe I've got something clever in here. I don't. I just have on result, and that's it. So this little library is doing all of the heavy lifting for me. WebKit speech recognition. So I can do, that's I guess how Crass is going, and I go there and I hit tap and I go, but the microphone keyboard on the device also does pretty dang good for this stuff. So I don't really have to rely on that one. But from my desktop, this is forgot that I had that mechanism in there. Record doesn't show up on my mobile because WebKit speech engine isn't available on the mobile device. How do I uninstall this motherfucker? I guess I'll say remove this apps data too. I don't know. Now if I go to that web page though, no, it's index.html. Yeah, it gives me this. This is my silly authentication. You got to know my secret code, and I'm not going to put it in here because it's not even a encrypted field, bro. Again, the threat model is my own system on my own hardware somewhere doing something, It's on an HTTPS connection, so I don't really feel bad
about the web app data. It cleared your authentication code.
Yeah,
interesting.
It's just a cookie.
Just a cookie, but it's interesting that the PWA data applied to a broader set of data.
You mean the container of the PWA and the context that's part of the natural browser are the same context?
Yeah.
Probably also true on my mobile device.
Probably.
The Crass app on there is using the same Chrome profile that was active when I said add to home screen or whatever it was.
Right. Or
which is my Docio account profile.
Right.
Yeah, so this little thing, and then I put my stuff in there, and I've got this, and I've got a search box. I was looking for something about LCDs a while ago. Now I guess I can't find it. Oh, you know what? I'm stupid. Not LCD, LEDs, dumbass. And some of these are not even related to LED, you know, because this is a dumb search.
Yeah.
These are just
It's got 3 characters called L and E.
right.
And
So I'm dumping all the stuff into a SQLite, and then SQLite has this mechanism you can do for a thing called a virtual table, which uses their module FTS5, full text search 5, which I guess is better than FTS4, which I never heard of. And you make this virtual table, and that's really all you have to do, you know, put the records in it, and it, you know, and then you use a special operator to search. It's not a very robust search, but again, this is my own stuff for my own thing. And then I would just like click through and, you know, look at this. Oh, here's something I saved about blue sky because I was caring about blue sky, trying to think, blah, 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 you know. There's probably something interesting on this page that I wanted. And I didn't want to put, oh, well, let me have my favorites in my HN profile and my favorites in this and my favorites in this, like the stuff I want to save. I want to save it on my own universe, which is why I'm like, I'll throw everything into Crass and then I can organize it later into my own internal wiki, GitHub, GitLab tickets, maybe it needs to turn into, or lots of the stuff comes out of here and then just lands in a README or a notes document on another project, right? Crass is designed to behave like an inbox, you know, but like a lot of to-do apps or note-taking apps or list apps, it's full of shit. And it's like full of shit from ages and ages ago, you know. Oh, hey, that one looked interesting. SQLite schema diagram generator. Like, how did I ever forget you, baby? Anyways, I love making database diagrams. No wonder it's in there. Oh, and I have a nice hashtag on it, ERD. Like, I should be able to find that next time I'm in here caring about ERDs or I go in here to look for something. You know, a lot of that stuff, I'm like, oh, I knew that thing. I had something about that in my head a little bit ago. What happened to it? Oh, it's in Crass, and maybe I can find it on the search. And again, talking about new tab page, I think if I was doing it again, one of the old ones I had, I used to do my old domain ages ago because I had a start page. Maybe I'm on somebody else's machine and I need to get to all the stuff I like to get to. You know, back to your point from, oh, well, what if you just had your start page on a remote server?
Right.
Totally awesome. Flip side of that is, well, now I'm reloading assets from my remote server and network dependent, blah, blah, blah. If I have my own local NTP, you know, this thing is loading 3 files from my file system that are probably cached by the OS or maybe like always open by the browser since they're part of these like known assets that you are going to have to load every time somebody clicks a very common workflow in the software. Like, why would these files ever get unmem mapped? You know?
Yep.
So it's just like, it's lightning fast, does the thing I want. I'm ready to rock and roll. Like, oh, I got to do some work. New tab, click. I can't remember if my keyboard shortcuts work. I can't remember what they are because I'm usually one hand on this keyboard, one hand on the mouse, Control T, click something. Anyway, new tab and PWAs. Stop.
Cool.
They're super easy. They're like super easy to make. And again, the productivity hacks for, oh, I saved myself 3 or 4 seconds on this task. I saved myself 3 or 4 seconds on this task. Like, well, it's not 3 or 4 seconds. It's more than that. And you know, there's some pain with, oh, I had to build this app originally. But like the OpenTHC new tab page, we could go and look. The last commit on that repo was probably 1,000 years ago.
Yeah, I do. Whenever I'm sharing stuff from mobile, I just send it to myself as an email. You know, like everything I do is just send it as an email.
Oh yeah, I mean, email's the ultimate app.
Right.
But Oh yeah, let's see. I'm looking at the code for OpenTXT's new tab page. My last edit was on March 12 of this year, where I just edited some links. And then the edit before that was in May 2024, where you won't even believe this, just updated some other links. Most of my commits are update links, update links, update links. Oh, and then 2022, there was the switch to Manifest V3 from Manifest V2. So a fourth vendor-driven change to my code was, oh, you guys are changing something, now I got to change something.
Yep.
Which we have touched on. So that was like, I don't know. And then Crash, I don't even know the last time I made an edit onto that thing. I can try to find out. Last time I edited Crash was in 2023. And the whole repo has 6 total fucking commits. 6 commits of making a PWA to just capture my share targets. You're absolutely right. It could do email every single time, and that's already nicely integrated on my phone. My phone has 3 or 4 email accounts, so sometimes it lands in the wrong spot.
Mm-hmm.
It stays in the wrong email account's drafts folder or something.
Yeah.
Perhaps never has that problem. And email is like, it is the ultimate app, but it's not the thing for moving shit from one spot to the next so much.
Yeah.
Not for me anyway.
Right. Yeah. We taught ourselves early on that it wasn't, because there were lots of reasons we shouldn't send lots of stuff through email. And today it's like, we don't bother anymore. We gave up.
I mean, it's fairly true.
It's one of my 3 sources of truth, right? I have a text notes folder, I have an extensive collection of notes in Ulysses, and I have email.
What's Ulysses?
Ulysses, it's a Mac app.
You ever looked at Obsidian?
Yes. The one reason I can't touch Obsidian is it is stuck in one window. You can only have I don't forget if they're the ones that call it a vault, but whatever.
Yeah.
In one window. Well, I operate on 12 desktops with 2 monitors on each of those 12 desktops. So I have the same file, same note.
12 desktop. Do you mean like a thing like what XFCE is calling a workspace?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, what FCE, what FCE, what TWM, or F.
Yeah. They call them like a workspace or something like that.
So virtual desktops, though, right?
Yeah.
Whatever
I click onto the Adocio one, and there's Adocio windows. I click onto this one, and it's got the 4 windows for that stuff, and you can move an app. It says, if you right click, it says move to another workspace.
Yeah. So I mean, I started with this with.
No, that's not going to work.
What was it? FWM, F something. What was the window manager? Back in the day, it was TWM, which was fairly featureless, no window manager, and the one that had an F. And there was a second generation of it. There was the 2 version of it, and that's where I started. And then later I went to Window Manager or a Window Maker. And Window Maker was a huge improvement because it was based on Next. So that's why, like, moving into the Apple ecosystem later on, because OS X was based on Next, it had similar feels and similar functionalities. But virtual desktops were always a bolt-on feature, and for a long time. But so I typically run 12 desktops. My primary desktop is where all of my asynchronous communication. So these days, that's Discord, Slack, IRC, messages.app, right? All of that is in that one desktop on 2 screens. Desktop 3 is where all of my email is. And then there's notes I have, because I'll be interacting with email and I'll be interacting with notes. So notes that's its primary interface, is that desktop. But so both my SSH into my text-based tree plus Ulysses for where all of my business stuff is. But I'll have Ulysses open in desktop 4 and 5, which are development workspaces. So, because for all the same reasons, right? And those will have browsers on them too. Desktop 2 is dedicated to browsers, right? That is my primary browsing interface. But if I'm working on developing something that's in a browser, I need to have browsers open in other workspaces, right? And then what I usually end up doing is like 4 is my primary when I say personal, that's the stuff I'm working on for myself or business or whatever. And then 5, 6, 7, 8, that's where I dedicate different customers. I mean, on my work machine, right? My personal machine operates differently. But so then if I'm working on this client's code, it's all over there. I go straight to desktop 5, go straight to desktop 7, whatever client I'm working on, right?
Yeah.
That way it maintains context. Browser windows, note windows, shells, editors, it's all there.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm using those desktops for.
But Obsidian won't let me open more than one copy. One window, right? It's like it's designed for the I live in the laptop with one screen environment. One screen, one desktop, and I've never been able to go back to that. I mean, when I added a second head using X to X, because you didn't have multi-head video cards, but you could add a second head using X to X, so you could interface. Yep. You just send your mouse over to that other one, right? And there you go. And then it was like, oh, well, I can do X to V and C. So my Windows machine over here, because you had to have Windows, because I needed to interact with people on Skype in the early days of Skype, when you couldn't even register for an account on Skype without Windows. So I had a Windows box. Using X to V and C, it was directly attached. It was just another head of, my primary Eric's workstation. And, so I had FreeBSD over here and Windows over here. And then, it was a different life. And now it's just,
different time. And now you're all on Mac, and Obsidian won't let you have multiple windows of your notes.
Yep.
I use XPad on the Linux desktop, and it's pretty good. You just it's got a little system tray thing. You right click, say new note, and you just start putting plain text in there, and it follows the desktop theme, and it has a big ass font, and it's great.
The other thing that Ulysses does is it does full live sync. So I grab my laptop, it's already sunk with notes. I
don't have any of that.
It's got notes. So the notes are fully sunk, unlike my SSH tree, my text tree, where I have to SSH into that box, or be on the box, or use VS Code remote, to connect to it.
Yeah, these notes are trapped on this desktop.
And it has a mobile app.
Yeah, these notes are trapped here. And that was sort of one of the things that Crass was also trying to help me with was I don't want to have to sync. I don't want to sync. Just put it all in one location, and I'll read, and I'll have a thin client to the remote. And Crass was that, like, oh, here's how to get crap from my mobile onto my desktop. Here's how to get crap from my desktop onto my mobile. It all just passes through this Crass app. Again and again, 20 or 30 lines of code that really matter, and loads of boilerplate, and a lot to be done for these like custom apps for productivity gains. I mean, I feel like that's probably
there's so much ability to build custom to suit you and your workflows using, whether we're talking what you do in your shell and or your editor setup, or your browser and your browser setup. And the sad thing is that the people that do this are the exceptions, that we're all building one-off things. So the large software stacks that we have to use to make this work constantly forget about us and turn off the thing we're using.
I mean, that's one of the reasons that I still haven't moved any of these legacy stuff that I have forward to anything else than my one-off bespoke, maybe not very robust PHP framework, in air quotes, right? That is really just designed to accomplish just the goal for just that app. But then I'm not changing it. The thing that moves, the thing that I've built on top of the foundation is just PHP.
Right.
Which has changed a bunch since PHP 3, but hasn't changed so much, and hasn't changed so fast, right? Like versus when I'm working on apps that were React, or I'm helping a fella out with Laravel, and you started off with that thing initially at Laravel 9, then 10, now 11, 12 is in the pipeline. You know,
there are gotchas when you need to switch from PHP 3 to PHP 7 or PHP 8 or something, but their overall, the general structure and the general feel is still the same.
Yep, and those bumps are like well known. You know, they're like, oh, hey, here's a huge breaking change that you can't do that stuff.
Right.
I mean, and some of it was, you know, obviously stupid stuff that they needed to fix. So good job, y'all. Thanks. You know, but again, it's not like, it was definitely not like some of the stuff where you're like, my view on the front end world, oh gosh, is that stuff moving fast? You know, and even frameworks that I picked that are like small and not having massive developer resources behind it, so maybe they will be more in line with my objectives. Even those guys are moving their stuff. There was one I really liked called Riot.js, and Riot.js came out, and then it got to like version 3, and I was like, wow, version 3 of this one is like perfect. And then it's 4, and now I think it's on 5 something, and you know, and I'm just in there having to like wiggle stuff to move it forward to the new way. And a lot of it's really just changing the ceremony of what's going on in the code. It's not really changing stuff that's meaningful. Again, with bespoke apps, pick some least common denominator, ship that thing, and enjoy the productivity. It almost feels like maybe GPT can help folks who are not inclined to do that.
I think we're going to see a revolution in power users. I mean, it's still going to be a small subset, right? But where people are now able to go write bespoke custom code for the thing they're trying to do, where they don't have to become experts to do it. They don't even have to know how it works, and that's okay, right? We're not.
I mean, I don't care how the service worker works that's necessary for Crass to go. And I didn't really need to do anything clever with it, except for the sort of boilerplate ceremony of it and changing 3 or 4 things to make sure it's referencing my domain and my security context and blah, blah, blah. It was I wanted all the ceremony and then change those 2 things. And I don't care about
personalization, personalized tools, personalized automation. I think it's going to come back now that it's just readily available to learn from and start doing. You know,
here's hoping.
Yeah, I do too, because I think that if more people start doing it, if more of the next generations of computer users start to do it, then it will become embraced again by the large vendors that make these choices for us.
We hope.
Yeah.
I guess that's about
Basically, if they're developers who are young and didn't do this stuff start doing it, they're going to go, oh, I want my operating system to allow this.
Damn right. Sure, you can uninstall the bootloader. What do I care? Edit the partition table while the disk is mounted? Fuck
sure.
Yes.
We've all done it, sometimes on purpose.
Yeah, cool. I think that's about a wrap.